We are delighted to have you join us for part 1 of the 2-part series entitled Saint Clare of Assisi, Vegetarian, devoted Italian visionary and co-founder of the Poor Clares.
Colloca i tuoi occhi davanti allo specchio dell'eternità. Colloca la tua anima nello splendore della gloria. Colloca il tuo cuore in colui che è figura della divina sostanza e trasformati interamente per mezzo della contemplazione nella immagine della divinità di Lui. Santa Chiara d'Assisi.
Together with the devoted companion Saint Francis of Assisi, Saint Clare founded a religious monastic order with over 12,000 followers, committed to serving the sick and poor. Born Chiara Freduccio di Favarone on July 16, 1194, in Assisi, Italy, Saint Clare was the eldest of 3 children. Her parents, Favorone and Ortolana, were Vélez aristocrats. Saint Clare learned to read, write, and do needlework. When she was a child, Saint Clare had little interest in her luxurious surroundings. Very much influenced by her mother's devotion to God, Saint Clare had a special relationship with Lord Jesus Christ. Even at an early age, Saint Clare would set aside food from her family to give to the needy on the streets, showing her calling to help the poor later on in life. When her mother was carrying her in the womb, she would pray for a safe delivery. One day, her mother heard the words, "O Lady, do not be afraid, for you will joyfully bring forth a clear light that will illumine the world." She thus named her baby Chiara, which means bright one. Saint Clare, together with her mother and sisters, were exiled to Perugia in her early youth. They spent their days praying, fasting, and feeding the less fortunate, and visiting prisoners. The family returned to Assisi in 1205. At the age of 18, Saint Clare was extremely moved when she heard the young Saint Francis of Assisi preaching during Lenten of 1212 in the church of San Giorgio. She secretly begged him to help her dedicate her life to God. Saint Francis, who immediately realized that she was destined by God for great things, promised to help her. He was also from a wealthy family, but he had given up everything to follow the instruction of Jesus Christ. Saint Francis became Saint Clare's lifelong friend and spiritual guide. Saint Clare's father had intended for her to marry a rich young nobleman, but she was determined not to marry, as she had already given her heart completely to Jesus. On Palm Sunday, she attended Mass at the cathedral, where everyone was at the altar to receive a branch of palm except for her. Unexpectedly, the bishop placed a palm in her hand. In Christianity, the palm leaf is associated with going to meet Jesus and also represents victory, as in the victory of the Spirit over the flesh. Revelation chapter 7, verse 9, Holy Bible. After consulting with Saint Francis, Saint Clare and some companions sneaked out of the palace on the same Palm Sunday in the middle of the night. Saint Francis and friars met them with torches, singing along the way to the little chapel of Saint Mary of the Angels. After much singing and praying, Saint Clare exchanged her rich clothing for a simple habit and veil. As a symbol of her commitment, her beautiful long hair was cut short by Saint Francis. Her father attempted to force her back home, but she refused, clinging to the altar of the church and revealing her cropped hair. Saint Francis wrote a short form of life for Saint Clare and the sisters, indicating they had joined Saint Francis and the brothers.
Poiché, per divina ispirazione, vi siete fatte figlie e ancelle dell'Altissimo Sommo Re, il Padre Celeste, e vi siete sposate allo Spirito Santo, scegliendo di vivere secondo la perfezione del Santo Vangelo. Voglio e prometto da parte mia e dei miei frati di avere sempre di voi, come di loro, attenta cura e sollecitudine speciale.
Saint Clare's sister, Agnes, joined her later, and together they moved to another convent next to the San Damiano church. When Saint Clare was 21, other women joined them, and they became known as the Poor Ladies of San Damiano, living a simple life of austerity and seclusion from the world. They wore no shoes, abstained from consuming meat, and lived in a humble house, keeping silent all the time. Although their lives consisted of manual labor, they were incredibly happy, praying to the Lord, whom they felt close to at all times. In 1215, Saint Clare became the abbess of San Damiano, spending her days praying and doing manual work. During her time as an abbess, she lived a life of poverty and humility, with a special devotion to the Holy Eucharist. She learned the office of the Passion by heart, a prayer composed by Saint Francis in order to increase her love for Christ. Under her guidance, the community became the sanctuary of saints.
Ci troviamo qui a San Damiano, luogo legato ai primi momenti della vita dei discepoli e di San Francesco. Fu qui che il crocifisso si staccò dall'altare e parlò a San Francesco dicendogli di andare e riparare della chiesa. Più tardi San Francesco collocò qui Santa Chiara e le Clarisse.
On 2 occasions, Saint Clare was credited to saving Assisi from invaders. One famous incident is called the Miracle of the Eucharist of Assisi. During turbulence in 1240, the convent of San Damiano stood between an army and the city of Assisi. Saint Clare was quite ill in bed when one of the sisters reported that she had seen soldiers in the fields close to the convent. Saint Clare got out of bed to take the Holy Eucharist from the chapel of the monastery in San Damiano. She held it in her hands, pressed her head against it, and prayed to the Lord.
Proteggi, Signore, ti prego, queste tue serve, che io ora da me sola non posso salvare.
A sweet, young child's voice answered her.
Io vi custodirò sempre.
Saint Clare and her nuns knelt and begged God for the safety of their town. The reply she received was,
Avrà da sostenere i cavalli, ma sarà difesa dalla mia protezione.
Saint Clare turned to the sisters and said,
Vi do garanzia, figlie, che nulla soffrirete di male, soltanto abbiate fede in Cristo.
Saint Clare took the Holy Eucharist and held it high in the air. Legend has it that those invaders were momentarily blinded by a bright light, which frightened them and they fled. In 1241, a similar situation occurred when other troops tried to attack. Saint Clare prayed again, which resulted in a storm sweeping in to scatter the invaders. Many miracles happened during Saint Clare's lifetime, such as the sick being cured by her blessing. Sometimes an aura of rainbow could be seen surrounding her. It's been a great pleasure to have your company today.